Rocky Mountain highs fade off into the distance like ghost riders in the sky. Black snow from white line, still like ghosts side by side. It's more than just a living, y'all. Hell, it's our way of life. We're the last of the cowboys. Giddy up, gone boys. 18 wheels on the concrete. It's a slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James. Modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys. It's a family tradition, diesels running through our veins. Daddy showed us the ropes, we were born in the fast lane. Branded by our heroes, taught to saddle up and move. Keep this country rolling, we're damn proud of what we do. We're the last of the cowboys, giddy up, gone boys. 18 wheels on the concrete, it's a slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James. Modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys. Third time generation. Little old school salvation. Blazing trails across this nation. Sea to shining sea. We're the last, we're the last, we're the last of the cowboys. We're the last of the cowboys. We're the last of the cowboys. The giddy up go boys. 18 wheels on the concrete. It's slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James.
Man, I was hoping I was hoping everybody gang up and get on here early so we could get out early because, you know, Christmas. It's Christmas time. I told my wife earlier. I said we're having a gala Christmas thing tonight. She said, "Okay, well, let me know when you want your dinner." She wasn't like excited. I see a lot of people. I talked to a couple of guys today, and they said a couple of people today, and they said the same thing. They said, somehow this year I just don't feel all that Christmassy, and I just thought, man, that's terrible. And what's happening too is this weather we got coming in. I wanted to talk about that a little bit tonight. This weather we got coming in can be brutal. I mean, brutal, ugly, bad, and down here in Nashville, it's supposed to get down to like 1. Where is everybody? I don't know. I don't know where everybody at. I had a bunch of people sign up to be on here. I don't know where they at. Anyway, this weather's going to be brutal. I hope everybody's ready for it, or better yet, I hope everybody stays out of it. I'm going to try to tie that in, to what I wanted to talk about tonight with equipment, because talking to Shaggy earlier. Hold on a minute. Let me change something around. Talking to Shaggy earlier, and he and I were talking about all the different stuff he teaches. Like apply for your authority, get your authority, how to work the load boards. Minus 47 here tomorrow. Damn. See, that's bad. I mean, that's bad. Fuel. Hey, buddy, what up? Fuel. Is Candace in here? What in the world? I don't know where everybody at. Fuel starts to gel, slightly below zero, depending on the fuel. And I don't trust this fuel we're getting these days. A lot of the companies did, a lot of them put additives in the fuel in the wintertime to keep it from freezing and chilling, but I don't know how many do or how many don't anymore. They don't really advertise it, and put it out there like it's an advantage to fuel here or fuel there. I never did trust that anyway. I always carried my own and put my own in there because I didn't trust truck stop fuel to keep me warm and keep my fuel from gelling. Chilling at a receiver for the night. Oh yeah, so might as well come here and bug you. I'm glad you're here. You need to hurry up and deliver and go your ass home. Anyway, fuel can start to gel up, and it doesn't have to gel all the way up. It doesn't have to turn into ice, before it can start plugging up your filters and plugging up everything and shut the motor down and kill you. I put quadruple bottles in my truck today. I always got a gallon. I tell you what, I've been using for years and years. Everybody's probably got their own favorite, but I always dump a gallon of Power Service in it when I fuel it. And I start out with probably too much, but I mean, I'd rather have too much than not enough. Unload in the morning, then a quickie load home, going towards home, then home tomorrow afternoon. Cool. Hey, Jonathan, what up? What are you talking about, Cletus? I'm talking about your fuel gelling up on your ass. I always use Power Service, and I always started out with a gallon, and I put a gallon in, and then every time I fueled up after that, if I was staying in the cold temperatures, I'd get another gallon and put it in there. So, half a gallon on each side, and that usually did it. 150-gallon tanks, that usually did it. But now, for most of the years when I was trucking full time, I was out of Florida, and there were a few years I was out of Indiana, and a few years I was out of Tennessee. But all these guys talk about, I can't be with my family. I sacrifice, and same as securement, it's never too much. That was kind of my thinking. I mean, I'd rather have that stuff in there. And I never had trouble. I had an airline freeze up on me in Nashville one afternoon in the middle of the day, and it caused my brakes to start shutting down, and I had to pull over. And I put a little, and I know you're not supposed to do this. I know you're not. Everybody chew me out. I put rubbing alcohol in my airlines. I just pull the glad hands off, pour it in there, and hit the brakes a few times, push it all through until I can smell it. And then, other than that one day, I've never had trouble with that either. So, and these trucks, and most of the trucks I've had in the last 20 years or more have had fuel heaters and all that. I just don't trust them. I just don't. Because years and years ago, before we had tank heaters and all that stuff, I never had any trouble when I had used Power Service. And I went up in the Pacific Northwest. Going to annoy my neighbors for a couple of days, letting the truck idle while the temps are so low. Yeah, I always did too. If it got below about 20, I don't shut it off. I just leave it running. And I had the last truck I drove full time for a long time was a Coronado, and it had an APU on it, and that APU was huge. It was those big 3-cylinder gizmos, and you could power the space shuttle with that thing. But when it got down that cold, I idled the truck. I didn't trust it. So anyway, see, here we are, right? But I knew you girls would do that. I knew you'd talk about trucks because you have trucks and you're in the equipment business, and you know what it takes to be in the equipment business. Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah, it's dangerous. These people, Shaggy, I have an APU, but I'm not going to trust it to anything less than 10. Yeah, see, yeah, exactly. I had a deal for a couple of years, and I used to pick up a load every Friday up in northern Wisconsin, up by Green Bay, and it came back to Nashville. And I would get in there most of the time Thursday night, And there was a little mom and pop motel right down the street from where I loaded. And I had big parking lot and a restaurant and all that. I'd go up there and get a room and, have a nice hot shower and a nice meal and watch HBO and go to bed and sleep all night and get up in the morning, go get my load and come home. And it got cold up there. I run my APU and idle. I do too. But I did that for, a couple of years year round. And it got, way down below zero several times up there. And there were times that I would get loaded and I'd have to follow the snowplows out just to get out, get out of there. But Shaggy teaches, I don't know where he's at. He said he was going to come on tonight, but I hadn't seen him or heard from him. I know he went to Florida. Smart guy. But he teaches all this stuff, how to use the load boards, how to find freight, how to do this, factoring, and all this other stuff that he teaches. But it occurred to me the other day, he never teaches anybody anything about equipment. He doesn't talk about equipment. And if you're in this business, once you go out and buy a truck, you're in the equipment business. I had a long talk with an old friend the other day. And him and his wife were sitting around and having lunch and talking. And he's got 130 trucks. And he's based down in Florida. And he's got 130 trucks. And he's been in business for years and years. He's got a big shop. So he does all his own work, everything, trucks, trailers, whole 9 yards. Does all his own stuff, always has. Idling tonight, which means I'll sleep like a baby too many years running reefers. Yeah, no shit. Unless it shuts off, then you wake right up, won't you? It's like somebody beating on the side of the truck. Anyway, his wife said, we've never made that much money trucking. I mean, it feeds everybody, it pays the bills, it does what it does. She said, but we've made all our money over the years buying and selling equipment. And if you think about it, that's what you do. You're in the equipment business. Anytime somebody goes out and spends $100,000 or goes in debt for $100,000, on equipment, you're in the equipment business. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. You're in the equipment business. That's the business you're in. And you can, all this other stuff, safety, compliance, load boards, customers, billing, payroll, all that stuff. That's all dandy. That's all wonderful stuff. But you're in the equipment business all day, every day. All day, every day. You're in it. And if you don't know anything about it, if you're not familiar with it, if you're not familiar with your truck, you're in trouble before you get started. And I mean, I've had people call me. People call me all day, every day. And I had one guy call me, and he said, my truck sure is making a weird noise under the hood. I said, what do you mean a weird noise? Well, it sounds like something under there clanging around in there. And he said, I don't have any idea what it is. And I said, well, what kind of motor you got? And he said, and he didn't know. He didn't know what kind of motor was in his truck. And I said, well, dude, well, what color is it? The motor. And he said, what do you mean? I said, what color is the motor? Like, if you'll tell me that, I'll tell you what you got in your truck. And, I don't have to, I'd have to look. And I said, well, look and call me. He didn't even know what kind of motor he had in the truck. And I said, when's the last time? Mara says, I've called you to pick your brain a few times. Yeah, and that's good luck with that some of these times. But I can help. A lot of the times I can help. Sometimes not. I try. But I have talked to these people that don't even know what kind of motor they got in the truck. They don't even know. They don't even know anything about it or what they're doing or anything. And I'm thinking, I wonder when the last time this son of a bitch even checked his oil. Yeah, Candace. When the last time he checked his oil? His oil or his water or his belts or his hoses or any of that. Well, he was in a company truck, so he didn't care. Well, I get paid to drive this truck, not work on it. I said, okay. You know, what if it puts your ass down in the middle of Wyoming during an ice storm? What about that? Well, I'll call somebody. Okay. So that's what you get. That's what you get. You know, and then they'll call me back 2 weeks later and go, I've been thinking about buying a truck. Were you kidding me? You shouldn't buy a truck. You shouldn't even be driving one. When you have an equipment owner and have been owning equipment for almost a decade, you probably have a good idea of what is what when something goes wrong. Well, I mean, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, I started out before I was old enough to drive, you know, working on my dad's trucks. That's what I did. We had a shop, and you know, we worked on his trucks. And, you know, we worked on cars, we worked on trucks, and he had 3 gas stations and in at any given time about 8 or 9 trucks. So that's what we did. So you know, you got to know that kind of stuff, and a lot of stuff has changed. You know, these guys out there, you know, longing for the good old days, they don't have no idea what they're asking for. Careful what you ask for. Careful what you want, because things have improved drastically over the years. But you know, you're in that business, and you're going to be you're subject to. I agree with these texts all the time. I assume I don't know anything. Yeah, I don't want the good old days. My arms couldn't handle that crap. Mine either, and my butt either. My butt couldn't handle it. And I don't like waking up cold. I don't like it. Too old for that shit. But anyway, if you're going to be in this business, you have to be in the equipment business. You got to get familiar with your equipment, and you got to know what it's worth, and you got to know, you know, when it's time to keep it, when it's time to trade it. You got to know about maintenance, and I'll give you a couple of examples. And a lot of you guys that have been around for a real long time will remember back in the day, way back when North American Van Lines out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, back then, back in the old days in the 80s, early 80s, they were the J.B. Hunt Swift of the highway back then. And these old beat-up, junky-ass trucks, and they would sell these people these trucks, these cab-over GMCs. That's what they were famous for, that and Internationals. You know, these trucks. All four of the motors on a Tesla semi, Jonathan, are red. All 4 of them. Anyway. And they don't have oil in them, so you don't have to bother with that. Anyway, these guys were the scourge of the highway back in the day. I mean, they were all over the place. I mean, everywhere. You know, you looked, and they were hauling. They were hauling household goods. That was one of their main things, but they also hauled freight, and they were big. They were a big ass company, and they had trucks all over the place. And those guys, I mean, even back then, now I know this is hard to imagine, even back then, they would hire foreign guys and put them in their trucks, even back then. And, you know, you run into one of these guys in the truck stop or this or that, and some of them didn't speak English. And so all this stuff that these people are crying about these days, it's not new stuff. This is not new stuff. But part of the reason I've been in this business all these years is because I love it. And I'm a motorhead, and I like my trucks. I like trucks. I do. I like trucks. If I get around guys that like to tinker with old hot rods and, you know, tinker with Corvettes and stuff like that, and that's all cool. That's all cool. I've had a bunch of cars. I've had a bunch of Corvettes. You know, that's cool. That's fun stuff too. But when you start talking to them about, you know, a 6 or 7 or 800 horsepower diesel motor on the hood of a big truck, you lose your audience real quick because they don't have any idea about that stuff. And the real true motorheads will dig it. You know, they'll want to know more about, well, what do they do with this? What do you do with that? You know, and it's fun for me to do that. But people out on the road these days, I don't care who you are, company driver or whatever, you should know something about your equipment. And if you're going to be an owner-operator, you better know. So I get into these things, and I have a lady that she's been wanting a truck for a while. And her son, she put her son on the phone with me, and I talked to him for, 30 or 40 minutes, and I explained to him about why I think the older trucks, you know, and Series 60 Detroits are good motors, and what it costs to maintain them, what it costs to repair them if you have a problem, which you will at some point. And I talked to him for a long time, and oh, well, okay, thank you very much. And then a couple days later, she called back, and turns out he wanted a new truck. So anything I said to him didn't make any difference. And I promise you, this is a guy that doesn't have any idea what he's looking at when he pulls the hood up, if he ever does. So, you're in the business. If you want to stay in it, you either have to have a shop or you have to have a really good relationship with a shop. There's no trade-off there. There's no in-between. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You either have to, if you have to rely on a dealership or a big shop to do your work, $100 an hour labor plus. Then they're going to charge you, 20, 30% upcharge on your parts and all that stuff. And on top of being down, they'll be 3 weeks behind or 2 weeks behind, or they'll put you up in the line and charge you more, or they'll be 2 weeks behind or 3 weeks behind and can't get to your truck. Now you're sitting there not making any revenue and nobody's working on your truck, to top it all off. And you don't know anything about it. And I promise you that 6 times out of 10, you could have done it yourself with a couple of small tools. Or if you knew anything about your truck, you could at least have troubleshot it. Or you sleep with a really good diesel mechanic. See, I can't top that. I can't, there's nothing I can say about that. Fuck those warranties. Yeah, exactly. So, if you're going to do that and you're going to be in business and you're going to make any money, you got to know your shit. You got to know your equipment. I worked for a big company for a little while, and their preventive maintenance program was crazy. And the first time I ever saw them pull a truck in there, that there was absolutely nothing wrong with that truck. Nothing. It's running perfect. Everything was perfect. They pulled it in the shop, shut it down, and they changed all the belts, all the hoses. They changed the distributor. They changed, the alternator. They changed the water pump. I mean, they did, $2,000 worth of work on that truck, and there was nothing wrong with that truck. And I said, what are you guys doing? He said, preventive maintenance. He said, we can fix it here, or we can send a truck out on the road to fix it and cost us double. So we just do the preventive maintenance. You can take that with a grain of salt. Sometimes you can go overboard on pretty much anything. But, at the end of the day, it's pretty damn smart. They did not have breakdowns on the road. Nothing. Ever. It just didn't happen. Unless it was a tire or something like that. Or if you have a breakdown and you're keeping up with your preventive maintenance like that, if you have a breakdown, it's probably going to be something bad. It's probably going to be catastrophic. Suck a valve or, bust a line or something like that. So, but the odds of one of their trucks getting shut down on the side of the road somewhere in bad weather like we're about to have were pretty much slim and none. I mean, they just didn't have those problems. So, the biggest thing too is when Frank took over our company and started running it freed me up to buy and sell equipment, fix it up, and that's what Ricky and I do. We fix up equipment, rehab it, get it going. Jonathan say, a driver tells me something is wrong, I ask him to get it back to Dallas if possible so I can control the cost of repair. That's the first thing we do. Yeah, Jonathan, that's the first thing we do. We had a guy that we sold a truck to. It wasn't our truck. And he'd been driving it for several months. And he called one night, and he was at a truck stop over by St. Louis. And he said his rear end was going out. And I said, well, what's the truck doing? He said, he got real shitty. I don't want to talk about it. He said, I'm telling you right now, the rear end's going out. So I got Ricky on the phone. And Ricky said, bring me the truck. He says, oh, I can't drive it. He said, this truck, you can't drive this truck. He said, I won't get 3 blocks from here and it'll all come apart in the middle of the road. Ricky said, no, it won't. He said, bring me the truck. You're 240 miles away. Bring it to me. He said, I'll make you a deal. He said, if you break down, even if you pull out of the parking lot and break down, I'll bring the wrecker over there and pick you up. I'll drag you in here myself. But get in the truck and come. The guy wouldn't do it. And he was driving for the people that we had sold the truck to. Long story short, they wound up spending $6,000 on that truck because that driver took the word of another truck driver over me and Ricky that work on trucks all day, every day. Just carry those easy parts with you: airbags, belts, a couple of hoses, blah, blah, blah. Because of back in the old days, Mara, because I'd fire that driver. They won't. Well, he quit and bought his own truck and went broke. So now he's going to come back and drive for them again. I'm getting him a truck ready right now. I carry some tools, Mara. Not a lot. I carry a toolbox. About this big. I can change belts, hoses, stuff like that on the side of the road. I have changed the turbo. I have had to do that. I carry an alternator, a turbo. I don't carry any air conditioning part. I do carry short belts with me because if the air conditioner goes out, I'll just disconnect it and put the short belts on there and bring it home because I can live without air conditioning for a day or two. But that's what I carry under I got a box under my bunk, and that's what I carry. I do carry a turbo. I do keep a turbo with me because I've had those damn things go out and at the worst time. So yeah, I do carry a turbo. And just extra bolt-on stuff, I don't carry any of the big stuff. I don't carry any, like a compressor or any of that shit. You could carry a whole motor with you, but I can't change one in a truck stop. But I do carry enough stuff to get me off the side of the road and get me home. But this guy argued with us, and another truck driver was standing there telling him everything that was wrong and blah, blah. So he took that guy's word over my word and wound up spending $6,000. $6,000. They never go out at a convenient time. No, they never do. They never do. They never do. I've never had an air conditioner go out in January. Never have. Never once. Anyway, buying and selling equipment is something I could get into. And, I think when these big companies hire these guys, I don't know what they do. Because I've never been through an orientation. I don't know if they take them in there and teach them anything about the equipment or not. I just don't know. And but they should. It should be required. Nope, only middle of August in Texas. Yeah, no shit. But what and truck and he's no, can't say no, they don't. Okay, well, I didn't think so. A lot of these companies don't want you to touch it. They don't want the driver monkeying with the truck. They don't want them to touch it. And if you look at some of these new drivers out there, I wouldn't want them fucking with my truck either. That's just me. But if they call you on the phone like that guy, and he's 240 miles away, bring it to me. I'll never make it. I ain't going to do that. I just ain't going to do it. Bring it to me. If it quits, I'll come and get you. I'll bring the wrecker over there. I'll pick you up. I'll come and get you. Well, I'm just not going to do that. Okay, fine. So now he bought his own truck. He didn't make it. So now he's going to come back to work for these people again. And I just told her, as much as I love her, I said, as much as I love you, and I do, I love her to death. I said, when he goes down, don't call. I don't want to talk to him. Do not call me. I can't help you. There's nothing I can do with that guy. So, anyway, the difference between motors, just the motor thing alone. And I see this stuff on social media. I see this stuff, about these different motors, and everybody has an opinion, and everybody seems to be, at least, they seem to be really, really sure that whatever opinion they have is the right one. They're not open to learning anything or discussing anything or trying to find out anything. They already know everything. They already know it. And we sold a truck to one guy, had a Caterpillar motor in it, and he was looking at two different ones, and one was a Detroit, and one was a Caterpillar. And I sat him down and told him the difference in the two motors. Max Force for the win. Yeah, if you need a great big 900-pound boat anchor. Told him the difference, and he wanted the one with the Caterpillar. I said, okay, but now you know the difference. We've talked about it. You know, I mean, you're going into this thing eyes wide open. Yes, I am. I want that. I said, okay. So, knock wood, he's doing good. I mean, he's done okay. He's done great with it. He's done some work on it, had to do a little work on it, which that happens, you know. Had to do this and that, but the motor's holding up, running good, getting good fuel mileage for a cat. So, you know, sometimes it works out. I mean, a blind hog finds an acorn every once in a while, but that person didn't know anything, the difference between, you know, those motors. And to me, to my way of thinking, and I know I'm old school and hardhead, you know, to me, I either want a Detroit Series 60, or I want a Caterpillar, or I want a Cummins, in that order. Candace say, I'm not a fan of Cummins, but I've never had an experience with a cat, so I have no opinion on them at all. Jonathan say, I heard not everyone can work on a cat engine. Not sure if that's true or not. Cats are different. I'll tell you about Caterpillars. Two things first. Excuse me. I am a fan of Cummins. Okay. Two things first about a Caterpillar. I'm a big fan of Caterpillar. Mara say, I'm a fan of whatever will make me money. I love my red top, though. Red tops are hard to beat. Red tops are million-mile motors. Red top's Cummins. Red top's a million-mile motor. They had some trouble when they came out, and for a couple of years, they had injector problems. And I could explain that to you. What those injectors, you know, an injector has a little teeny tiny cam in it that turns, you know, with the motor, with the revolution of the motor and the valves, it turns and squirts that fuel. That little cam in there. And for a couple of years, and nobody knows why, I guess just trying to build a better mousetrap. For a couple of years, Cummins split that up, and it had two little cams in there. And all it turned out to be was just another opportunity for something to go wrong with that injector. And they did. And they had a lot of trouble with them. And, you know, in my world, if I have a problem with an injector, I replace all six because you're going to anyway. That's like putting one headlight in your truck. In about 3 days, you're going to put the other one in there. It's going to go out. So might as well just replace them both, throw it away, and go on down the road for 2 years and not worry about it. And to me, injectors are the same way. If injectors start going out, you're going to replace them anyway. So I just pull all six, get a new set, you know, clean everything up, put it all back together, and then I don't have problems with it. But that red top, once they figured out the problem with those injectors, and I'll tell you what they did. It was a pretty simple thing. They went back to a single cam injector, and that's what the ISX motor, you know, those big red motors, that's what they've got in it. My headlights space themselves out 6 months apart. That's amazing. They didn't start out that way. There's no way. No way. Anyway, they replaced that two-part cam in their injectors with another single cam injector. Why pay the labor to keep opening the motor? Yeah, exactly. But, and they haven't had any trouble with those motors. And those are good motors, and they're strong motor. They run good. They've got good power. You're not ever going to get the power out of those old Cummins motors. I mean, once you get them set, they'll set at about 500, 5.25. You know, once you get them set, that's it. I mean, you're not going to get any more out of it. Candace say, I love my ISX. I'll get to that in a minute. Those older Cummins, once you get them set, I love them ISX Cummins that have 45K going up the mountains. Yeah. Once you get that older Cummins set, That's it. That's where it's going. And with the Caterpillars and the Detroits, you can keep doing stuff to them and bump them up to wherever you want them to go. Cummins not so much. The new Cummins, the ISX, you can. Two things I don't like about the current ISX, and that's why I put them third on my list. The ISX, if you dig into it, and we have several times. Number one, the only thing that separates oil from water inside that motor is a little tiny O-ring about that big. That's it. When it comes right down to it, that's what separates the oil from the water in that motor. The problem with that build, the problem with that motor is if you get that O-ring hot, if you ever do, you're going to overhaul the motor because you got to get it all apart to get to it anyway. I bumped up my DD15, turned it back after a month. Yeah, good. I'm not a DD15 fan. That could have been a great motor, but they built that. Motor, Mara, around all the emissions they had to put on it, instead of the other way around. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with these PACCAR motors. They're built around the emissions. That's why. And you were one, Mara, but you're one of many that I know that have, done the big D on that motor and it didn't run right. It won't run right. And no matter how you program it, no matter how you set it up, no matter what you do, it doesn't run right until you turn it back down and put it back in spec, and then it'll run like it's supposed to. Caterpillar motors, the cheapest, easiest motor to work on these days, anywhere, anytime, is a Series 60 Detroit. And that's why, Fitzgerald founded that company building those trucks with those motors. And that's why, you hear people say, best motor ever made. The best motor ever made is not always the most powerful motor, or not always, not always the fastest motor. Saving now just to get a new crate motor when it's overhaul time after what you told me. Yeah, you can't cut the counterbores on those because there's not enough meat left on the bone. There's not enough metal in there, to cut the counterbores. The people will tell you they overhauled it, and it might last you 200,000 miles, but they didn't cut the counterbores. That sleeve's going to slide again sooner or later. You didn't fix the problem. So anyway, Caterpillar. Caterpillars, the guts of those things are really simple. They really are. They were built. Caterpillar likes to build road graders and earth movers and shit like that. And those motors are probably the closest thing to the old Cummins motors of anything. They're very simple when you get into them. Parts are expensive. Everybody says, well, they ain't built one since 2009. That's true. They stopped putting them in there in 2009 in trucks. But we haven't had any trouble getting parts. We don't have any trouble. They are expensive. Parts are expensive for that truck. I mean, labor's labor. You're going to pay that no matter what. But parts are expensive for that truck. For that motor. That motor's not going to get as good a fuel mileage as you'll get out of a Detroit. It's just not gonna. And if I could sit here all night and talk about, the fuel systems in it and how they burn fuel and what they do. But, one of the best truck motors ever made in the whole wide world is, and everybody's going to say, oh, wait a minute. That C15 Cat, the last one they built. Because all that motor is, they started out, when they started building that 3406 motor in the 80s, okay? They built a 3406A, or it went from a 1683, which is a whole different animal, whole different thing. And they started building those 3406s. And every year, since they started building the 3406s, they improved it. Every year. I've got a Peterbilt now that I've got for sale. Some of you guys, Mara, you've seen it, that white one. It's got a 6NZ cat. which is the single turbo. It doesn't have the twin turbo and all that stuff. But the water jackets in the guts of that truck, in the block and in the head, the water jackets are a lot bigger than a 3406A or B. That was one of the improvements they made. Get more water through it, keep it cooler, keep everything running better. And then when they built the C15, they're even bigger. Everything's even bigger, and you got more space in the head, you got more space in the block. They run cooler, they run better, and they have more power. And those things are a beast. And a lot of people will take the twin turbos off and put it back down to a single turbo. And if you do that, you're just a fucking idiot. Leave the twin turbos on there. Leave them there. I know a girl up in Pennsylvania, and she's got one with twin turbos. And she's got two 7500 twin turbos on that son of a bitch. And I promise you, that Caterpillar will outpull any of those single turbo cats. And she gets good fuel mileage with it when she's not got her damn foot in it running 100. But Caterpillar's a Caterpillar. It's a 1,000,000-mile motor. It'll go forever. I knew a guy right here in town, an older man. He retired. He was 81, and he had a W900 Kenworth, and he had a mechanical 3406B in it. When he retired, it had 3.1 million miles on it, and I begged him to buy that truck, and he didn't tell me when he retired, and he sold it to one of his relatives over in North Carolina. Wound up with that truck. Had 3.1 million miles on it. He'd never been in the core of the motor. He'd done a few things to it, but he never did overhaul that motor. So that's what they are. They're tough, and they're ready to go. Cummins, we already talked about that. The last Cummins Ricky and I looked at the overhaul was a friend of ours, and he blew it. He blew the motor, and we think he did. We don't really know. But when we started putting together pricing to overhaul it from him, just the parts to overhaul that ISX Cummins were $21,000. Just the parts. Just the parts. That's before you ever put a wrench on it. Just the parts for that. So, yeah, Candace say, ouch. Mara say, wow. Yeah. So, we've got a guy, and we do a lot of stuff with him. He's kind of a friend. He's a local guy, and he hauls tankers. And he's got all Cummins motors in Kenworths. That's what he's got. And he hauls heavy stuff all the time. And he's got some of those little Cummins just humming, man. He's got them cranked up, where they're getting like 60 pounds of boost. And, they're sitting there running about 650 horsepower and shit. And, I mean, they're badass. But when you do them like that, when you turn them up like that and work them that hard, they don't last long. They just don't hold up. Then you come around to the Detroit. The Detroit DD15. It's the same way with Detroit. When they first started building that Series 60 motor, that single head, straight six motor back in the 80s. I remember the first one I ever saw was down in Fort Myers, Florida. And we used to haul flowers for a nursery down there. And a guy came out of Canada, and he pulled mulch down there and flowers back. And I ran into him every week. I saw him every week. And he bought an big international Eagle, and it had that Detroit in it. And we went out there, and he pulled the hood up and showed me that. And the first thing that jumped out at me was that single-piece head. One-piece head. And I thought, well, shit, that won't work. That's not going to work. Well, they do. They're a pain in the ass, but they do, obviously. And that was the first one of those. I can't remember what year it was, but that was the first one of those I ever saw. And they've been around ever since. And every year, a couple of years, they upgrade it and make it better. The DD15 was the same thing, except that they cut too much down to the bone. It's a great motor. It's probably the best motor they've ever built. And it will, if you take care of it, will go 1,000,000 miles. But like I said, they designed it's all electronic, and they designed that motor around the emission system instead of the other way around, like Cummins. Cummins built the emission system around their motor. Right now, if you go out and buy a brand new truck right now, the only motor that you can overhaul, I mean really overhaul for real, is a Cummins. That's it. That's it. You're not going to, and the shops will tell you, yeah, I can overhaul that for you. That guy Frank's full of shit. If you can't cut the counterbores, kids, you can't overhaul a fucking motor. I don't care who you are. I don't care. I see it on Facebook all the time. I just overhauled my motor 2 months ago and spent, $23,000 I got here. And that son of a bitch is building up pressure in my reservoir. And I'll go, did you cut the counterbores? And they'll go, huh, what's that? So now you're going to overhaul it again. So, these new motors, there's just not enough meat left on the bone. In fact, Mara, Detroit doesn't even make a tool to cut the counterbores on a DD15. Not unless they've started making one the last couple months, because there's not even a tool to cut that motor. Nothing. You get these guys on there and they'll go, well, I measured those heads and I measured everything, and it was in spec. Well, unless you got that motor up to 1,100 degrees, you didn't really measure it. It's two different animals when it's sitting there at room temperature or when it's got 1,100 degrees temperature and stress on that motor, because that's what you have to do. So that's why every time we rebuild one, we cut the counterbores, or we don't do it. We don't do it. So, Detroit Series 60 for all that. And we can get parts to overhaul one for right around 11, a little less maybe. That's $10,000 cheaper than a Cummins. $10,000 cheaper. So you go from the 12.7 to the 14-liter. On a 14-liter Detroit, which is a great motor, that Series 60 14-liter, those things are stout as shit. They come out of the box at 525 horsepower. Not the overbore can, it's the counterbore. That's the holes that the liners and pistons go in. The hole in your motor. Where was I? I got lost. Anyway, the new motors, the only one you can overhaul is the Cummins. It's the only one. So for that fact alone, if I had to go out, if somebody forced me, so as an option to replace the top end, sure. Oh yeah, you can do that. It's a whole different animal. I mean, that's like, top end and bottom end on a motor is a whole different thing. I've seen people do the rods and mains in a Caterpillar at 1,300,000, 1,500,000 and go to 2 million miles. I just did one. Anyway, parts on a Series 60. The difference between the 12.7 and the 14 liters. The 14 liters is a pretty stout little beast. The 12.7 comes out of the box at 430 horsepower, 470. And the 14 liter comes out of the box at 515. It goes up from there. And they're so tough, they're put together so tough, and the parts are so good on those motors on the 14 liters. When you go to overhaul them, you can actually pull the pistons out. And if there's nothing wrong with them, if they're not scarred up or scratched or anything like that, you can clean them up and put them right back in there. You cannot do that with a 12.7. You cannot do that with a Caterpillar, and you cannot do that with a Cummins. When you dig into those things, you're going to replace the whole thing. You got 600,000 now, so I got to formulate a plan for the near future. You got some time. 600,000, unless you're running, 200,000 a fucking year, you're not doing that. You got time. That's pretty fresh for one of those. That's not bad. But then you get into transmissions, and I'm not going to get into all that, but which is which and what's what, and this and that. I can tell you that if you want Kansas Sam at 642K, yeah, that's still, if you've taken care of it, do 100,000 a year. That's about right. That's enough. If you've taken care of it, if these fleets, if you notice, these fleet trucks come out of the fleet and go on the market at right around 500. you should be able to get up to 850 or so. Depends on the motor and your maintenance. The fleet trucks come out of the fleets and they go on the market at 500,000. That's because the big fleets skimp and shave and try to save money here, save money there, and they don't maintain them like they should. Some of them do, some of them don't. But my guess is that they're in the money business, so they're not interested in maintaining anything. That's why they go on the market at 500 or less, and then the truck is worth more because of that. Fleets try to trade in trucks before the warranty expires, or before the motor blows up, or before these shitty emission systems burn the motor up, because they kill. Those emission systems are motor killers. I don't care what anybody says. They're a motor killer. I left one out, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to make everybody mad. If I had to go out and buy a brand new truck, if somebody said, Frank, I'll pay you $6 a mile, for the next 2 years, but you've got to have a truck. Delete the damn and beat death in the EGR. Yeah. Frank, you got to go out and buy a truck. You got to put a team in it. And it's got to go to California and back every week, and I'll give you $6 a mile. It would be a toss-up. And now everybody's going to get mad and think I have lost my fucking mind. That's okay. And that's probably true. I probably have. It would be a toss-up between a 579 Peterbilt, a 680 Kenworth, that new one that they got out there. That, either one of those two with a Cummins motor. And here's where everybody's going to freak. Mara hit it. A Volvo. Volvo invented, serious now, Volvo invented the DEF system. That's where it came from. They had it a full 2 years before any of the other motor manufacturers came around to it and started duplicating it. Well, that's a problem with those 680s. Yeah, I know, because they're junk. And they got shit motors in them. But here's the problem with the Volvo, Mara. Here's the problem with it. And the only one that, as far as I'm concerned, because I don't give a shit. I stopped caring what people think about the motorcycle I ride, the car I drive, or the truck I drive when I was about 13. Hey, Frank from Florida, Shagley Catch. What up, brother? I was talking about you a while ago. Electrical. Yeah. Here's the problem with the Volvo. No, Mara, it's not what you think. That is kind of a problem, but it's not. The problem with a Volvo is they are the best in the whole wide world at keeping all of their parts in-house. If you get a part for a Volvo, there's no such thing as aftermarket. It's either Volvo or nothing. And you are going to get it from a Volvo dealer, and you are going to pay them what the fuck ever they say. And if you get out there with a Volvo and you have a problem and you need work, you're going to get it done at a Volvo dealer. As opposed to a Freightliner or a Peterbilt or a Kenworth, and those trucks are interchangeable. You can pull into any dealership and they'll work on those trucks. Whether they've got a PACCAR motor or a Cummins motor in them, they don't care. They'll work on them. Or Detroit, they'll work on them. But a Volvo, you're only going to get that truck worked on at Volvo. And that's the only thing that bugs me about it. And there's not a lot of mechanics out there, especially on the road, especially, truck stops and roadside mechanics and stuff. There's not a lot of guys out there that'll even touch a Volvo because of that. Yep. Well, we had 3 Volvos in the past. We have numerous new parts hanging around here now. Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem with them. That's the only problem with them, is that their proprietary stuff for those trucks, they've done the best job in the whole world of keeping all that in-house. But a Volvo motor is a damn good motor. It is a damn good motor. Very, 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 very similar to a Cummins. They are extremely alike. Okay? But Volvo was the first one to come out with that DEF, and if anybody's gonna, if anybody over the last 10 years, 7 years, whatever, made it work, it's been them. Kind of like how my red top was in a Volvo. Yeah. I had a couple of Volvos back in the day, the big 770s, the big one. I had teams in them running California back, and they had 12.7 Detroits in them with 13 speeds. Those were good trucks. The trucks weren't great because back then they were so heavy, those damn things. They couldn't figure out how to keep steer tires. I went through steer tires like popcorn on those trucks. And they tried everything they could do to get it straight, and they couldn't. But now they've got it all straightened out. But if I had to buy a new truck, it'd be a toss-up between, one of those big plastic Packard trucks and a Volvo because of fuel mileage and because of longevity and because of all those things. I hate that I left that out. And when I get back to dealing with equipment, there's a company in Springfield, Missouri, and you see their equipment all over the place. I mean, all over the place. And it's Prime. What about a newer Mack? A newer Mack's a Volvo. Volvo owns them now, and Mack is still a proprietary motor, transmission, rear end, but they've brought it back. They've brought it back home. So, Mack is pretty much the same thing as a Volvo. Same fuel system, same all that. And I wouldn't hesitate to have one. I like the new Macks. I think those new Pinnacles are sharp. I mean, for a big, round nose plastic truck, I think they're sharp as shit. Prime is in the truck business. They're in the equipment business. Let me explain that to you. They get a guy and they put him in there, and they get some money from him, like $5,000 or $7,000 or something. And if you don't have it, that's okay. They'll take it out of your settlements for the first 6 months till you get it built up. Then they charge you a whole bunch of money for that truck, but that's your truck, see? What that means is a couple things. One, because that's your truck, you have to pay for the maintenance. If you tear up a tire, you got to buy a tire. You got to have all the maintenance done in their shop, and they make money on maintenance. You buy the truck from them at 25% interest, plus you pay $40,000 premium on the truck, and you get out there and you run up and down the road for them. They deduct your payment before you ever get a penny. So you're buying your own fuel, you're buying your own maintenance, you're buying your own parts, you're doing all that stuff, and you're out there just running for them. They don't give a shit if they ever pull a load of freight. I mean, they got to have enough to keep those trucks running so they can get their truck payments. But those people are in the truck business. That's what they do. They buy and sell trucks, and they make a killing doing it. That's what they do. That's the business that they're in. That's the model that I was telling you about. North American had years and years ago. They had that same model, but Prime has taken it to just perfect. But they're in the equipment business. I mean, the fact that they haul freight's just secondary. They just have to have enough to keep those trucks going, and that's all they really care about. They don't really give a shit after that. If it'll keep the trucks moving up and down the road so those people can keep burning fuel, because they get about a 30 cent kickback on every gallon of fuel that their owner-operators buy from the fuel company. They get that. Plus they sold the truck. They got a $45,000 bump on that. 28% interest, maintenance in the shop. You buy all your tires from them. You buy all your oil from them. You buy all that stuff from them, and you're making a payment on that truck. And when you get real close to the end of your lease on that, they bring you in the office and give you a big hug, give you a plaque and a fucking jacket that says Prime on the back, and tell you, you know what we're going to do because we like you? We're going to put you in a brand new truck today. As long as you keep making that payment. It'd be interesting to know how many people have ever ended up owning their leased truck. I know a couple. I do. I know one guy, and he lives in Missouri, and he's owned a couple of them. And he's paid off 2 or 3 of them, but he lives in them. He doesn't go home. He never goes home. He just stays out there and blah, 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 blah. He's out there tonight, I guarantee you, running somewhere. Mara said, fuck yeah. We like you. We're going to give you a brand new truck. That's like the coal mines used to have back in the day. You know, those they had the company store and the company house, and the coal miner, the coal company owned everything. They owned the place you lived. They owned the place where you bought your groceries. They paid you. They didn't even use real money. They just paid you in fake money because you were going to spend it on your rent and your electricity and spend it at the company store buying your groceries there anyway. Didn't matter. Those poor suckers. Yeah, and you're in there breathing that shit and dying from it. Yeah, that's what they do. But you're in the equipment business. I've thought about, I've done it a couple times. Ricky's done it a couple of times where we'll get somebody come in and they want to buy a truck, and Ricky will put them in a truck and an older truck, because that's our thing. That's what we do. And help them get started. And he'll bring them in the shop when they're working on the truck and show them how to do things and how to do some of their own stuff on the truck. The last 3 people that we've brought in to do that with, and that was because of this show right here. I would have people get on this show that were on Shaggy's show. I want to do that. I want to learn that. I want to do that. The last 3 have failed. They thought they wanted to do it, but they really didn't. When it came right down to it, they didn't want to do the work. All 3 of them went back to driving a company truck for somebody else. All of them. They thought they wanted to be an owner-operator. They did not. They didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to learn about the truck, learn about the motor. They didn't want to do any of that. They said they did, but they didn't. Well, that's why they're there 6 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. So you're in the equipment business. I buy it, fix it, and sell it. I can buy newer trucks, but I've only done a couple of those. We've had 5 or 6 people on here all night. That's terrible. We usually have about 30. And I had a bunch of people sign up, so maybe they'll come and watch it later. I don't know if they go through that. I would love that. Let's go through my truck. Okay. Say when. Say when. We're always happy to see you. I got a whole bag of shit waiting for you. Holiday, Candace. You're probably right. Probably right. It is holiday, isn't it? I got all my shit done today when it's warm. Yeah, exactly. It's pretty warm in the shop. Ricky keeps it pretty damn toasty in there. He's got that gigantic big heater over on one side that blows heat all over. Not bad. Anyway, I wanted to talk about that because if you get down on the side of the road, it can put you out of business. I see it every day. People call me up. I want to buy a truck. And I go, what do you want? I don't know what you got. They don't know. So I give them my little speech. Candace, I'm determined to stop by and see you in person one day. We're a lot of fun. I mean, you can ask Mara. She came by there one day. She just popped in there one day and hung around all day. She stayed all day. We just hung out. I mean, when you come to our shop, you're just family once you get in there. You got to be careful because those boys will put your ass to work. But we got a little area. Mara can tell you about it. We got a little area over there by the desk and the drawer and all that shit where we got a bunch of old truck seats we've taken out of trucks kind of stuff. And that's our kind of like our meeting area where we sit down and shoot the breeze and plan to solve all the problems of the world and shit like that. And everybody comes in there and winds up over there hanging out and shooting the breeze. When Jacinda bought her truck from us when she came up there, she stayed up there damn near 6 weeks because we had some weird shit going on, and she did too. And by the time we got everything done and her truck finished and all that other stuff, she wound up there. She went up there for 6 weeks. Mara said, we sat there all day. Yeah, we do. Well, now we don't sit there all day because we have to go to lunch about 12 o'clock. Fat boy's got to eat lunch. Will you be at Matt's next year? I don't know. I don't usually decide on whether I'm going up there or not until right at that time. And I'll tell you why. I just live about. Yeah, we went to lunch. Hell yeah. I'm only 2 hours from there, Candace, and if the weather's good and a decent day or whatever, yeah, I'll ride up there. I'll ride up there and walk around and see some people and stuff. You say hi to Chad for us if you go to Matt's. I haven't seen him, God, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I was up there at a booth with Shaggy one time, and he came up there, little fucker. He came over, yeah, the guy that doesn't like me. I said, bitch, I don't even know you. Going down the street before this old Marine shows you how we whip asses these days. You ain't going to Matt's if I need a team driver. Yeah. It's concert season. That's right. That's right. Anyway, we've been on here over an hour, guys. I didn't want to keep you. I wanted to talk about that. It's our little group. I enjoy this little group. It's like kind of all our friends getting together and just talking. Let me know if you go. The man and I will be there. You can talk diesel crap with him. Sure. Fuck yeah. Or, like I said, Candace, you're only 2 hours away. You can come down to the shop and hang out. You're welcome to. Anytime. Equipment. Know your equipment. All 5 of us. And have fun. I hope everybody. I don't think anybody's coming this year. My sons usually come up out of Florida and bring the kids and all that. But with the weather coming in that we're supposed to get this weekend, we told them just stay south. Shit, just stay out of it. So I hate to do it, but we'll go down there probably after that and see him. I'm lucky to get him to go as far as Kentucky. Well, tell him we'll feed him, damn it. Tell him we'll take him out to the happy place. Mark can tell you we'll take him down there to our little meet and 3 where they sit around and gossip all day, every day. Anyway, you guys take good care of each other. Have a great, great, great Christmas, I hope. Everybody has a really good Christmas and a good time. And be safe. Stay out of this fucking weather. Have the grilled cheese. Hell yeah. Their grilled cheeses and their vegetable soup is good. It really is. It is good. But anyway, you guys have a great, great, great weekend. Great holiday. Great Christmas. I'll probably jump back on here again before New Year. And we'll talk some more. Merry Christmas to you and your family, Frank. Thank you. Thank you. Take good care of each other. If you need anything and I can help. Can't say, hell yeah, going home. Have to beat the blizzard. Fuck yeah. Everybody stay warm. Love you guys. I do. Take care of each other. If you need anything, I'm rat cheer. Rat cheer. Pretty much all the time. But have a good Christmas. Have a good holiday. And if I don't talk to you, have a real good New Year. And be safe and be profitable. Okay? Y'all be good. Serious. Here's some Tony. I have permission for this. I didn't even see you in there, man.
Right across these plains and prairies, Rocky Mountain highs, fade off into the distance like ghost riders in the sky. Black smoke and white wine, steel horses side by side. It's more than just a living, y'all. Hell, it's our way of life. We're the last of the camels.